Hello, friends. I'm really glad you're here today. I want to talk about something that completely turned my life upside down. Have you ever noticed how sometimes everything starts falling into place the moment you finally stop worrying about it? Sounds like a paradox, doesn't it? All our lives we've been told, set ambitious goals, fight for everything, never give up. And I lived like that for years, planning every step, controlling every tiny detail, believing that this was the way to success. But then came a moment when I just broke. In relationships, at work, in the search for that elusive inner peace, everything seemed to collapse. And here's what I realized. Our attachments to people, to outcomes, to expectations aren't anchors of stability. They're heavy weights that drag us down. Carl Jung, that incredible mind of psychology, taught me an uncomfortable but freeing truth. The more desperately you cling to control, the faster life slips through your fingers like sand. I remember sitting in my apartment a few years ago, completely drained after yet another failure at work. I was trying to keep everything under control, but the universe just laughed at me. And then I stumbled upon Jung's ideas. Today we'll explore why learning to let go might be the only real path to freedom. I'll share my mistakes, how I tried this in real life, and the thoughts that helped me get back on my feet. Stick around until the end. This simple shift in thinking can change your reality. And if you love diving deeper into self-psychology, make sure to subscribe and check out our Telegram. Links in the description. We unpack these topics step by step. No fluff. Let's start at the beginning. We all cling tightly to our ideas of how things should be, and in that very moment, life seems to mock us, turning everything upside down. Attachment, which seems like support, often becomes a source of endless anxiety. I've been there, clinging to a partner not because of love, but out of fear of being alone. Holding on to the idea of success at any cost at work until I completely burned out. The key is simple. Relax your grip, and the world breathes a sigh of relief. Jung said it plainly. Why chase? It flees. What you accept transforms. Not just words, but a law of the psyche. We live in a society that glorifies the endless race. Career status, perfect relationships. Peace is always just around the corner. But it's the neurotic need to control everything that blocks real change. This isn't about giving up and drifting like a sloth. No. It's a gentle shift from constant tension to conscious observation. I started small. Instead of planning every evening, I just sat and watched my thoughts. And you know what? The world didn't collapse. Ideas came naturally. Jung taught that as long as we're obsessed with fantasies, perfect partners, brilliant careers, a happy future, we remain blind to what's happening inside us. Wanting success is natural. That's human. But problems begin when our entire identity is tied to outcomes. If I am my job, my relationships, or my achievements, any failure hits like a punch to the gut. That's where constant fear, gnawing anxiety, and frantic control attempts come from. Jung called it the ego's futile attempt to preserve its illusions. True change isn't smashing your head against the wall. It's stopping resistance to the natural flow of life. Not weakness, but insight. Letting go isn't abandoning life. It's trusting the invisible wisdom guiding you. Chaos begins to make sense. Opportunities come naturally, without exhausting pursuit, and the endless anxiety shifts to a strange, peaceful feeling, as if you're finally here, truly living in your own life. Letting go doesn't mean giving up your dreams. It means releasing the obsessive idea that everything must happen exactly as you imagined. It's stepping out of the prison of I must into the open space of awareness. Now let's dig deeper. What if the problem isn't the person you're attached to, but what you've projected onto them? Jung was clear. We rarely cling to another as a real person. We cling to our projections, the hope they'll give us the validation, love, or salvation we lack inside. We assign people roles they never signed up for. What we refuse to see in ourselves, we look for in others, idealizing them or demonizing them. And in that distorted mirror, painful attachment is born. Our ego tries to turn the outside world into its extension. Possess it like a child with a favorite toy. Fear of being unwanted hides behind manic drive for success. Hunger for love masks as relationship dependence. What seems like high ambition is often just a patch over an inner void. No one can play a borrowed role forever. When illusions collapse, bitter disappointment remains. Jung saw this as the psyche's defense. Easier to blame others than face the hidden parts of ourselves. But here's my experience. Once you see your projections, a real miracle happens. Reality changes. Other people stop being screens for your fantasies. They become simply human, with strengths and flaws, no idealization. Letting go of illusions is painful, like surgery without anesthesia, but it brings immense relief. It's the start of honest relationships. First with yourself. When you stop chasing what will make you whole, paradoxically, you get closer to yourself than ever. Then, almost magically, everything starts to fall into place. This opens space for conscious presence. Connection with the world is built on genuine closeness, not possession. But when illusions finally crumble, the ego panics, clinging to what cannot be controlled. Here, you need to see the difference between inner guidance, born from harmony with yourself, and obsessive need to control, masking fear as competence. We make plans, anticipate outcomes, thinking it will give security. But hyper-control is ego trying to avoid life's unpredictability. Jung warned, neurosis always becomes a substitute for genuine experience. Control is like anesthesia. Instead of feeling, we overwhelm the mind with strategies. Instead of facing vulnerability, we hide behind routines, goals, promises. Thinking total oversight will protect us from being human. But control isn't living. It's existing in a capsule, trading spontaneity for illusionary stability. Spontaneity gives life color, freshness, authenticity. Without it, relationships become rituals. Work becomes a burden. Even a full day feels empty. The ego insists it can handle everything. Any deviation triggers guilt, anxiety, self-flagellation. The mind is hyperactive, like a system with too many programs. Exhaustion is natural. Deep down, the controller is a shield against surrender. But surrender isn't giving up. It's acknowledging forces beyond control. Jung saw the unconscious as a living system creating reality. Ignoring it traps us in rationality. Letting go is an act of trust. Trust that chaos carries wisdom, surprises carry direction, not a life without landmarks, but readiness for the unexpected. In a world where we plan, even silence, this is revolutionary. What if true freedom isn't control, but realigning the ego to the self? The center of psyche, of wholeness. Not a mask, not a role, but who we are without pretension. Individuation, Jung said, is becoming yourself through integrating conscious and unconscious. Individuation means becoming a single, homogeneous being, and, insofar as individuality, embraces our innermost, last, and incomparable uniqueness. It also implies becoming one's own self. The journey starts small. Stop reacting by habit. Realize you don't have to play a role. After a breakup, sit with the emptiness. Don't fill it immediately. These are portals to authenticity. They may not be comfortable, but they open space. Capitulation is when ego acknowledges limits, realizing you don't need to know everything. Then the self awakens, quietly, gently leading. Guidance comes from resonance, not logic. This kind of letting go isn't passivity, it's refined presence, acting without fixation, loving without reciprocity, creating without proof. Motivation comes from inner wholeness, not applause. In individuation, ego doesn't vanish. It serves the self. Everything changes. Relationships become sincere. Life is lived, not conquered. Letting go is integration. The old departs. The new arrives. We stop being roles, become whole. For the self, you must face the persona, the social mask. Necessary for society, but dangerous if we live through it. The persona is a complicated system of relations between individual consciousness and society. Fittingly enough, a kind of mask designed on the one hand to make a definite impression upon others, and, on the other, to conceal the true nature of the individual. Attachment to image breeds fear. Liberation is awareness. No constant story needed. We can err, change, contradict ourselves. Authenticity emerges. Letting go of the persona is brave. Appearing unarmored, dismantling the built image. It frees, Jung said, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. Attachment to image is sleep. Awakening recognizes complexity behind the mask, and behind it lies the shadow. Freedom scares us. Being free without hiding in people, roles, promises, responsibility for what we reject. Shadow, the repressed psyche, not always bad. Everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. We want freedom, but fear emptiness. We cling from fear, not love. Letting go, look inside. What remains without desire? Shadow arrives, anger, envy, sorrow. Courage is required. Jung, there is no enlightenment without confrontation with the darkness of the soul. Transformation is acceptance, needs and fears integrated, not dominated. Shadow is key to a full life. The shadow appears in love, confused with need. Thin line between desire and fear. True love begins where projection ends. Love that binds is not love, but need. Letting go, pure love, respect and freedom. Maintaining mask and dependency drains energy. Mask collapses, subconscious cries, I can't pretend anymore. Jung, crises call truth. Burnout, not motivation, but too many roles. Body fails, mind blocks. Letting go, freedom, not escape. Pain comes when mask falls. Letting go is symbolic death. Grief for unfulfilled ideas, projections. Jung, without death, no rebirth. Emotional process, silence, doubt, vulnerability. Emptiness is fertile. Relief and sorrow, freedom and solitude. When connections dissolve, world reshapes. Silence and emptiness are spaces. Like a window after years, dust dances, air shifts, discomfort, but breath, presence. Imagine years of fear-based relationships. Letting go, silence, emptiness. Then space for creativity, writing, cooking, walking, return to self-expression. Jung, psychic energy restores when ego isn't fed. Creativity, life reorganization, wisdom from suffering. Things flow naturally, not magic, but no obstacles. Artist blocked, rests, walks, the idea lives. Letting go, space for birth. Free creation opposes ego, control versus expression. Ego recedes, self leads lightly, joyfully. Letting go bridges proving to simply being. Space isn't emptiness, but soil for presence. Life whispers, you listen, purified. It comes down to an open gesture. Release ideas, fears, stories. Not from fatigue, but clarity. Holding costs more than loss. Attachment, not love, but fear. To love, allow flow, control, resistance. Ego demands submission, but life intention. Healing is accepting, listening, abandoning the chase. Acceptance opens transformation. Now question, what are you holding on to? Image, expectation, fear. What if you let go? Risky, yes, but holding is more dangerous. We're here to live, not play a role. Life demands courage. Shed layers, approach the essential. Thank you for watching. Share in comments, what will you let go of today? Like, subscribe, and see you soon.